morning at 5 a.m. when we reassessed. So we will see. But it seems like the next couple of weeks we're going to continue to be in this winter storm track. So we'll see where that takes us. In other news, as you can see on the slide in front of you, this is our enrollment as of January 31st. Our total enrollment is 2,885 students. That is up 4 students from last month. So again, we are definitely tracking with a very consistent pattern as it relates to our enrollment. Next slide. And then as part of my report tonight, I really wanted to theme this celebrating success. This is my favorite part of the work that we do every time that we can recognize and elevate our students as well as the adults who serve them. And so this evening, as you can see on the slide, I have 3 really great pieces of information to share. The first of which is that this past weekend, the Scarborough High School cheering team earned or won, I guess you would say, the Southern Maine Class A Regional Championship. So congratulations. This is really exciting, especially whereas just a few years ago, we didn't have enough participation to even field our own team. And so great to see these accomplishments happening for our students. Second of all, I want to recognize one of our coaches, Jim Harmon. He was named the 2024 Boys Cross Country Coach of the Year for the state of Maine by U.S. Track and Field. And so each year they select one person from each state. Jim was selected for the state of Maine. And, many of you have come to probably recognize him over the past few years as we give, our sports recognitions to students. And, we have certainly heard Coach Harmon come and speak about the efforts of our students and how successful our students are. But again, we would be remiss to say that our student success is really based upon the great expertise that we have in the staff who work with our students on a day-to-day basis. And certainly Coach Harmon is representative of that. So we are very fortunate to have someone of his caliber be recognized and continue to dedicate his time to Scarborough Public Schools. Finally, I did also want to share with you that we have 4 teachers who were nominated for Cumberland County Teacher of the Year. This is a program that is put out by the Maine Department of Education, and teachers can be nominated by basically anyone. And so I received notification on Monday that we have 4 teachers who were nominated. You can see them listed here. Mary Lisa Dowling, a teacher at Blue Point School, Matthew Coleman, who's a teacher at Wentworth School, Jude Vayu, who is also a teacher at Wentworth School, and Suzanne Mahar from Scarborough High School. So, I certainly reached out to each of those 4 individuals myself personally, again, to just thank them for their efforts and their dedication to students at Scarborough Public Schools. I think that our staff don't do this work on a day-to-day basis for recognition. They're just really committed to our students. And it's wonderful when others can recognize the talents that they have and the gifts that they bring to our students. Just as a piece of information, the way that the Teacher of the Year program works in the state of Maine is once an individual is nominated, they can self-select to continue on in that program, which is pretty rigorous in terms of requirements. So there's an application and lots of things that they have to do because as you can imagine, there are probably several people in every county that are nominated, and the DOE has the very difficult job of selecting one person to represent each county. So I have not gotten acknowledgement from all 4 individuals about their personal intentions, but whether or not they choose to continue, certainly the recognition that they have earned from the Department of Education in and of itself is a huge accomplishment.
That's incredible news. Thank you for sharing that, Diane.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Diane or any comments? Abby and Grace, do you recognize any of those teachers that were on the list?
Yeah, Miss Marr, my brother has her this year.
Oh, nice. That's really exciting. You have to tell him to tell her congratulations.
Yeah, I will.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, agenda item, the new 8.0 is going to be the chair's report. We did just do these at our last meeting, so I don't have a huge update, but I did want to just talk about our workshop at the next meeting, which is February. First off, our next meeting is February 27th, so it's a week off from our normal schedule, and that is because the week prior, school is on vacation and we don't hold our board meetings when school is out for vacation. So we will not be meeting that week. We will instead meet February 27th, which means we'll have 2 meetings 2 weeks in a row. But at that meeting, we have changed our workshops around. We were initially going to wait a little bit to hear about our pre-K class that has been going on this year with our partnership with Shooting Stars. But what has happened is the building committee, as they have been working through potential solutions, a constant question or ask that they have is they would like some guidance from the board about pre-K. And so our initial intention for this workshop was to hear about the current class, hear that's the current partnership with Shooting Stars, hear about things that have gone well, things that we've learned, understand the limitations with expanding our program, really trying to understand what it means to bring pre-K to Scarborough, really like get our hands and our arms around what this means. And so just with the questions and the asks, I thought it would be better for us as a board to really bring this workshop sooner than later, sooner than waiting until April. So that is our February 27th workshop. We will start early. We'll start at 5:30. And Diane and I believe Kelly Martin Mullen, right? You said will come and help Diane to present this information to us. So definitely come prepared with questions. I'm sure that Alyssa and Jillian probably have some from the building committee or some thoughts from the committee, but definitely for the larger community, it's, might be something that they would want to tune into, but definitely for our board, any questions that you can think of as it relates to pre-K would be a good time to ask. All right, are there any questions for me? All right, agenda item 8.0, no, 9.0, our committee reports. We're going to start with the building committee. So Alyssa and Jillian.
All right. I can't promise you won't hear background noise here, but all right. So Alyssa, you want me to do this? Is it all right? All right.
Sure, go right
So
ahead.
we've been meeting weekly at Mondays at 6. The next 3 meetings are out there. We'll, of course, next week, and then we will miss vacation week and resume on the 24th and then March 3rd. They're now going to be going from 6 to 8:30. We moved to have that extra half an hour because there was some feedback from the community that when we have a meeting posted from 6 to 8 and it goes to 8:15 or whatever, or longer, that's frustrating, but also that the committee wanted a little more time to be able to discuss things. Things weren't, people wanted to make sure that they had their say. And so we bumped that out by half an hour. We may or may not always use it, but that also allows ample time for public comment. So that's moving forward. Our last meeting, there were two options that were eliminated. One of the options was the option to move sixth grade to Wentworth and make Wentworth a 3 to 6. The architects came back and said that it was really not feasible. There were a lot of reasons for that, but basically the number of classrooms they would need to move a whole grade and the additional spaces they would need for specials and other common spaces was just not enough. And the other option was the 2 K-5 buildings. So Wentworth would become a K-5 and we would build another K-5. Yeah, so you can see that meeting if you'd like to hear more about that. There are 5 options remaining and we'll be continuing to review those. We also discussed enrollment again. There are no significant differences, so we have not made any changes to our plan there. The communications committee has been working steadily with the survey going out soon, working on some final edits. And Leader just put out an article this week about the progress of the committee. And then there's also, it must have fallen off the slide, but there is the site selection committee is continuing to work as well. They have looked at all of the possibly available sites and done a lot of work, and we're going to hear about that more at the next meeting. Alyssa, does that capture everything?
Yep, nothing to add.
Thank you.
I do have one quick question, if I may.
Sure.
I heard why the first option was removed, but I may have just missed. It might have just been me. Why was the 2K-5 solution cut?
It was a hotly debated and pretty tied environment on the removal. So it did come down to on a do we eliminate vote, it came down to a 10 yes, 9 no, 1 abstained vote. So it was very kind of closely looked at. It didn't have something as clear cut as, you know, the footprint wasn't going to have the available space. Some of the concerns expressed were, you know, the level of consolidation it requires. You know, if a K-3 got voted down, would a K-5, despite being smaller and split in 2, be acceptable? Lot size, and then a lot of people who kind of were more interested in keeping it along were expressing, you know, desire to hear public feedback first prior to making any eliminations and keeping it along in order to have it go through its process. So it was a really lengthy conversation. I thought the committee did a good job hearing everyone's sides, but there wasn't as clear cut of an elimination reason as the other option where the footprint isn't large enough. Jillian, do you think I sprayed?
Yeah, I mean,
anything?
yeah, I mean, there wasn't, that's all I was going to say is it wasn't clear cut. Unfortunately, we don't really have like a clear set of parameters for whether we move something forward or eliminate it yet. And so I think the committee recognizes that and will work towards that in coming weeks because, you know, we want the right solution for Scarborough.
Yeah,
Alright,
and I'll
thank you.
just add, Mitchell, I think there's a little bit of angst, at least I picked up, that those are my words, among some of the committee, feeling like perhaps they need a little bit more direction from that, from us and from council. And so I imagine that that might be something that we're going to have to consider as well. So and when I say direction, if you think back to the last workshop we had with Charlie, we talked about, or I talked about pros and cons. I'm going to come up with a different word. I know pros and cons are not the right word, but things that the solution meets, you know, problems that it solves and problems that it doesn't, right? And so Charlie talked about the committee prioritizing the priorities. That was his way of describing it. And so I think that is what's not been done yet. And I think what ultimately might end up happening is there might be an ask of us and council to really kind of help them with that. So more to come on that for sure.
Yeah, I do. That has been kind of coming up more and more as we get further down the process as looking at these options. So it's tough in the room. Everyone in the room had, and everyone on the board, everyone on town, everyone's an individual, and their priorities are, not always consistent with each other's. And there was a voiced concern that, well, what is the BOE and town council really looking for? What are the absolute musts for this situation? And I think one of the really important things that we wanted in this processing committee was of, community driven effort to find a solution. And some of that is finding the parameters that need to be met, but there are starting to be voices looking for a little bit more guidance. So I do agree with Shannon. We may receive an ask for, as they're looking at, do we separate the gym and cafeteria? Do we really need a different art music room? Do we, is it required to have a play space that's large enough by DOE standards? What happens if the classrooms aren't big enough to meet DOE standards? Do we keep the portable? A lot of these questions are coming up, and that ask may come to us.
I see.
I see Freyla, you have a question? I see your hand raised.
I do. It's less of a question and more of a concern. I'm not a member of the building committee, so I don't participate in those meetings, but I'm really worried. I'm hearing this. I was very worried hearing that our solutions went from 5 to 7, looking at the aggressive timeline we set out. I'm extremely concerned that this committee's been meeting for months and hasn't prioritized their priorities or seems to have a good solution or a handle on what the community needs. Or if we can violate standards that are set out. I mean, like, that question seems crazy to me. Like, why would we be violating DOE standards in building? But they're like, we have tasked them with making this recommendation. The idea that they want to come back to us for guidance was exactly what we were told very clearly, that the citizens who took that survey that we sent out didn't want. They didn't want a predetermined outcome driven process, which they felt like the last process was. So my feedback to the committee is, this is what we've tasked you with. Yes, it's hard and it's big and there's a lot of questions, but this is why you joined this committee and are pouring hours in, is to make recommendations about what we need. You need to figure out what the need is. You have a lot of experts at your disposal to do that. And then you need to recommend a solution that you think the community can get behind so that we can get this school built. We have dithered about on this topic for over 20 years when those portables first arrived. And I am out of patience because we need to get this moved on to the next level. So I can certainly show up to a board meeting and give public comment about where I stand on this issue, but we do not have time for this. So I am extremely impatient and frustrated with that feedback, not at you personally, Jillian or Lisa, and not personally at anyone on that committee. I thank them for their hard work. Meeting weekly is a huge undertaking, but this is what they signed up for. So
Yeah.
I am very frustrated and very concerned about this feedback coming at this point. And it seems to me that, are they clear on what the charter is or not?
I do agree. And I think some of that comes down to the timeline concerns that I hear and I echo. Harriman, our hired architect firm, has done a good job of keeping us on task with meeting a lot of these. We are technically still en route to making our it's either May or June recommendation timing for the board to look at for a November referendum. So just to provide some ease of concern that we are still on mark. But I do think that we're at a crucial crunching point where I think we've spent a lot of time between SBAC 1 and SBAC 2 talking about priorities and identifying things, how do we stay, competitive with the wonderful school systems around us? What are they offering? What are they doing? What are we looking through? But now we're kind of at that pinch point where we can't talk about it anymore. We have to actually make decisions. And you're right, they are hard decisions. And I think it's challenging.
Dan, I see your hand up too.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I think that this is very difficult work. And the SBAC committee got a very clear charge from the town council and the school board. And I think they are struggling in part because at this point in time, it's becoming evident that they are not going to be able to meet all the pieces of the charge because of the financial constraints. And so I know that there is some discussion happening about coming back to the two governing bodies to have some discussion exactly about that in regards to here's what we were charged to do, but this is where the financials are coming. And so we're going to need to make some decisions moving forward about how to ensure that the project stays within those financial parameters. And so it actually might be very helpful to come back to the two governing bodies, the board and the council, to say, here, it's not appearing as though we're going to be able to meet all of the aspects of the charge. And so we need some guidance from those governing bodies about, how the folks who are in these positions would like to prioritize things.
All right, is there any other questions for Jillian or Alyssa? All right. And next slide. Jillian, continue on,
Yeah.
please.
All right. All right. So we met today, actually this morning at 8 a.m. We are continuing to work on the community dinner. And so if any of you have any ideas or would be willing to help us get a raffle, not raffle tickets, I don't know why I wrote that, but raffle prizes for the community dinner, that would be great. As Shannon said, we moved the spotlight due to weather. So there will be 2 presentations on the 27th. We are obviously going to look to have a robust outreach effort for the budget process, making sure everybody is aware of dates, articles, things that we can do to really support the budget this year. And we're continuing to share calendars and important dates in the town newsletter. Here's an example that I put together. Jenna made a really neat one that I liked better, but next month. So we're just continuing to do that. We will do an update on, after this meeting, about once a month. We've been trying to just give a summary of what all the committees are up to and get that in the town and school newsletters. So that's pretty much it. It's actually a lot, but it doesn't sound like much. Oh, I think that this also went out on Facebook. So people are aware of our upcoming and current dates.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Jillian? Are we gonna do, is the plan to do joint meetings with the town council about the budget, the community meetings? Do you know? Have you heard anything?
So I actually think that's on the next slide.
Oh, well, let's
I
flip over
think.
and see. Oh. I think that was right, Rise or Cheryl. I'm not sure.
Yes. On the
Driving.
finance, I think the finance committee has more to say about that than I do.
All right, well, let's hear from Jenna.
Hello. All right.
Hi.
So I have linked in there actually, and I don't have it up on the big screen, so I can't click in. but I have linked in the budget calendar. And the important ones to remember for us is the school board budget workshop. So right now they're scheduled for Tuesday, March 18th and Wednesday, March 19th. The great thing about these meetings is we really get to hear from building leaders and department heads about all of our budgetary needs. And then we also discussed our leadership council budget development calendar. So it was nice that Kate actually shared what a leadership council has been up to, because they actually started the budget meetings in December, whereas we're coming into it in March. And each department and each school discussed level services, staffing, enrollment at each phase, class sizes, projections, retirements, reorganizing the year-to-year stuff, strategies, goals, and all the things leading up to all the budget requests that we're going to be hearing about. And this is also where we're going to hear new proposals. And according to Kate, leadership team is already aware that we may not afford new things because we're still in negotiations currently with our largest bargaining unit. So we're waiting on that. But we would like to make sure that we have sufficient funding and can negotiate in good faith about it. So that's more to come on that. And then we also reviewed the draft financials for Q2. And our next meeting is going to be March 3rd. And our last meeting was this past week, the 27th. So if you click into the calendar, it's very color coded. Let me pull that up on my end too. I'm not sure if you're able to click in it from there. Are you, Cheryl? Maybe not.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not able.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in there are all the important dates for our budget. So that's all I got for now. Freyla, is there anything else that I missed on there?
So do we have, is there time set aside to have, are we having community meetings with the council, like joint?
I haven't spoken to them, and I honestly haven't even looked at the calendar thoroughly yet, but the assumption is yes, because and then we also discussed in communications this morning about having roundtables, and we want to actually we don't want too many, because what happens is we already have a hard time getting people to come to those roundtable meetings. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I think one of them died. So we were actually talking about it in communications this morning, that we want to have less roundtables of the communications committee, because we already have all of these additional meetings that are hardly attended to begin with, that having more we're probably going to get less to come. So yes is the short answer.
Awesome. All right, any questions for Jenna? All right, thank you. Alyssa.
All right, so long-term planning met on January 30th. We had a really wonderful update from Todd and supported by Kate about a lot of the work that's been going on and some of the challenges that we have in our district while making these long-term plans. A lot of them are related to the work in SBAC and needing to find a school solution. So Todd has been wonderfully thoughtful in taking a conscious approach to the use of our finances and the way we approach our buildings and fixing them up. So a lot of these solutions and opportunities for the future do not include some of our buildings or making additions to our buildings. And so he's being wonderfully thoughtful about being in contact with Harriman and making sure that we're setting up the School for Success Kind of one example was the middle school's major mechanical system is nearing end of life and will need replacement soon. And there's kind of a hesitancy of how to approach that because a lot of the solutions have a very large addition going on to the middle school. So he's reached out to Harriman to have better understanding about would that the major mechanical system to support the addition have its own kind of mechanical system, or would it be tied into the current system, in which case there would need to be a larger system. So a lot of the work right now that's being planned is focusing on the high school because it's not a part of the solution. It's fine as is right now. So there's, I believe, a roofing project going on. There's some interior work with furnishing and flooring that will be done throughout the summer. There's also a large project going on at the middle school. The middle school is entering its 29th year of operation. And there was some work that was identified. There was voltage drops noted. So he's been working with CMP in order to have some replacements done that will happen over the summer. It does require the electrical, I believe it's the electrical system to be completely shut down. So there will be a period of time over the summer that the middle school will be unavailable to use, which is a big hit for our district whose schools never sleep. So there will be some wonderful work kind of is being set up there in order to prepare, because if it isn't done, it does risk kind of a more catastrophic down when our students are requiring the building. So staying ahead of that and staying on top of it. And then there's flooring work going on at the high school. But I did kind of want to call out the hard work that our employees are doing in being really conscious with the way that they're approaching our buildings, keeping them maintained while juggling the SBAC work. So it's been kind of a nice thing to be on both committees and in order to kind of tie the two together. But there's some LED work being done, and as well as there's a plan for some exterior work at Blue Point School that was done at Pleasant Hill and Eight Corners last summer. It'll be done this summer. Yeah, a lot of really wonderful work going on. Our next meeting is to be determined, but will be towards the end of the year to hear what kind of the official summer plans are going to be.
Awesome. I know the summer's their busy time, right? When everyone's out of the building, so they're gearing up. Any questions for Alyssa? All right, Freela.
Negotiations are ongoing. Unfortunately, due to the snow, we were unable to meet today, but we have another meeting on the books by the end of the month, and we are looking forward to getting that one done. Obviously, as a reminder, our board goal is to have our committee goal, and our board goal is to have that contract completed in advance of the end of the school year, so that all of our wonderful staff have some know exactly what's going to happen in their lives when they return in the fall.
Awesome, thank you. And you can carry on policy.
Policy. So we had a meeting on Tuesday and we finished JFCK. It is not in time to present it tonight, but on the 27th, we will plan on bringing it to second reading. We've sent that draft out to you all. It will be posted with our meeting minutes on the website. Probably it will go to Cheryl tomorrow. So within a few days, business days, it will be up on the website and accessible to anybody who would like to review it in advance of our meeting. And I'm looking forward to that discussion on the 27th because I think we have concluded our work on that policy, and I'm ready to get back. And not that glad to spend the time on all the policies, but there's a lot of other policies that need our attention. And I want to go back to continuing to work through all of our policies. So next up is use of school facilities. That was brought to us by I think Mr. Jepson brought that to us with some concerns. And we'll look at student transportation, which we annually have to review, and then we'll go back to the B suite and work our way through that. We are contemplating a change in how we review the policies, looking at the oldest policies first instead of going in order of the alphabet. Because I've been on the policy committee for a number of years and we are in B, having finished only A. So just trying to figure out the best way to make sure we go through all the policies on a regular basis. So again, this is on the slide, the JFCK second reading is February 27th for anybody who's interested. And our next policy meeting date is March 6th. It's a normal Thursday before our meeting, 5 to 6:30 slot.
Awesome. Do you want to say anything about the calendar?
Of course. It's the first thing on my slide. I just skipped it because I highlighted JFCK. We looked at the 25-26 calendar. I don't think it's up today for voting. I think it'll be coming up on the 27th. I didn't see it in our agenda. And it is, we will publish that as well. I think balances, we're making the same recommendations we've made. I'll go into more detail later. So there's not a lot of changes. It starts around the same time, it ends around the same time. It'll have 3 extra days built in, which I think makes me feel breathe a little easier with snow days. But we will publish it and get that approved in a timely fashion because there's sometimes tight deadlines with that calendar approval.
Thanks, Freyla. Is there any questions for Freyla? All right. Are there any liaison reports?
Yes.
Go ahead, John.
So the pre-K committee, we had a meeting on the 30th of January with Diane, Ray, Kelly Molly Martin, Kate, Michelle Belanger from the state DOE, and Ruth Hughes, our local pre-K partner, and myself. We currently have 1 pre-K classroom, 16 students, that is in a partnership with Shooting Stars and Ruth Hayes. This is currently funded with a 2-year grant from the state. We are in year 1 of the 2-year grant. Excuse me. Michelle shared with us the pre-K program self-assessment we must complete at the end of the school year for the state. Kelly and Ruth will do this together. In February, we also have a district report that we must submit to the state for our program. Kelly, Diane, and Ruth will do this. The next steps, we've got, district report on the current school year to be completed in February. The MOU for school year 25-26 will be completed for year 2 of the grant, which includes application for round 2 funding for year 2 of the grant, and upcoming spring visit from the DOE.
Very good. Thank you, John. Any questions for John? I have one from the DEMT. The district emergency management team had a meeting last week. Or was it this week? Gosh, this week, last week? Okay, thank you. My weeks are blending together. It was a really good meeting. Majority of the time was spent discussing the data breach with PowerSchool. So Jen Day did a really great job. You know, she's come and done a few of our workshops, and she's really excellent and thorough, talking about the data breach, what it means not only for Scarborough, but for schools all over the United States. They're still really, I think the long and the short of it is they're still really looking through and investigating the data breach. And so that was the majority of the time. There is some other time was spent discussing a couple of other items. The fire station has received new defibrillators, and so they will be placed around. And what's really wonderful is that I guess currently some of our schools and fields share defibrillators, and now it looks like we have enough so that won't be a requirement anymore to share. But going forward, the expense of those will transfer over. So the school district will be responsible for replacing those as they, I don't think expire is the right word, but fall out of warranty is the word that that was used. So that was discussed. And then the other really thing of note that was discussed was the body cameras that the police officers are using. As you remember, those went to referendum in November and were approved. And so the department is they expect to be outfitted and up and running with those in March. And that does include our officers, our school officer, resource officers. So there was discussion around what that looks like. There is some redactive technology that is a part of the cameras. So if first off, they are turned on so if the officer turns it on right at the school because there is criminal activity happening. But if the officer records individuals that aren't necessarily a part of the situation occurring, there is some redactive technology in there. But there is some potential use for watching those videos should the need arise by parents and staff later on. So those are, like I said, is expected to be fully operational in the district and the town in March. Yeah, go ahead, Freyla.
Onto the body cams. So when there's criminal activity on body cams, that information can't be redacted when it's turned over to defense attorneys. Trust me, I know, because I litigate this regularly in court. So I know there's going to be a policy written by Scarborough Police because it's mandated to have a policy for body cams in police departments that choose to use them. Are they going to have any carve out for the school resource officer, or is that part of the discussion about what the school resource officer will do? Because they can turn their cameras on and they can turn their cameras off, but it's not criminal activity that's usually captured on cameras. Normally, police do not get to witness police criminal activity. Typically, they arrive afterwards, and the cameras are running during the entire course of their investigation into criminal activity, which captures all witness interviews, interactions, and anything they see. As somebody who has watched hundreds of hours of body camera footage at this point in my career, I'm very concerned about privacy issues with those cameras and making it extremely clear when they're permitted to be on, when they need to be turned off, why they'd be turned off, because they are very invasive. And you can only, even with redaction software, you can't redact everything from certain members of the public.
Yeah, and I'm gonna pass to Diane, but I want to say one thing. I want to back up what I said. When they were describing the redactive technology, what they were discussing is what if a student is involved in something that is a situation that's caught on camera and the parent wants to review it. That is when the redaction could potentially be used. He didn't discuss reusing redaction as you're suggesting, so that's why I want to turn to Diane.
I wonder if the word that you might be looking for, Shannon, is like that other students could be blurred out of the footage.
Yes.
I think that is perhaps what your intention was. But Freyla, to your point, if there are questions that you have, I am sure that either Deputy Chief Grover or Chief Holmquist would be happy to attend a future board meeting to give a firsthand account. I don't want to speak on their behalf. I'm not a member of law enforcement. But I think that they could certainly describe well the thoughtful process that they have put into this before moving this forward at the department, right? And just like other pieces of the uniform have changed over time, a police officer cannot only wear part of their uniform when they're on duty, right? Like they are required to wear the entire uniform. But if it would be of interest to the board, I can certainly reach out to them and see if they could attend a future board meeting to give a firsthand account of how they foresee these working, and also to provide an opportunity for you all to ask questions if you might have those.
I would be very interested in that.
Yeah, me too.
Diligence around that, and I think the community has a right to know what's going to happen with that. I'm not opposed to body cameras. I'm in favor of them for a variety of reasons, but I am concerned about privacy of students Policing in schools is a topic that is of concern.
Yeah, we can absolutely put that on an agenda. Thank you, Diane. You'll reach out to Chief Holmquist?
Yes, I'll go ahead and reach out to him tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? All right. Agenda item 12.0, our student report. So we'll turn that over to Gabby and to Grace and Abby. I combined your names. Did you see that?
So I don't have too much to report on this week since I just did a presentation recently, but there was a middle school band concert recently where 6th, 7th, and 8th graders had the chance to show off their abilities that they've learned this year in music. And for both the middle school and the high school, there's a talent show tomorrow, Scarborough's Got Talent. It hasn't happened yet, but yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Grace.
There was lots going on with Wentworth in the past 2 weeks. So last week the Wentworth School Chorus Club performed the national anthem at the Maine Celtics game in Portland. There's a link to the video there. We could watch it, but
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. I didn't push sound. Let's see if it'll go. Hold on. Oops, sorry.
It seems like maybe we're having a bandwidth issue because we're not at school, but I think that perhaps once we post this up, that people might be able to view it on their own and be able to enjoy the sound.
Yeah. They're so cute. Look at them.
All right, let's see here.
yeah, so the other two pictures. So at Wentworth, a class researched the life cycle of cotton, and they decided to share their learning by creating a play. It was very entertaining, and it was also everyone learned a lot. So those signs, I don't know if you can read it, but it says they're going on strike. So yep.
Very cute. Abby, do you have any update from the state board that you're on? Any update there?
We had our first meeting last month, and that meeting was mostly just like a get to know each other type of thing and discuss what our goals are for the rest. The next meeting will be next week, so hopefully there will be more updates after that. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, any questions for Grace or Abby? All right. Agenda item 13.0 is general public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make general public comment this evening? Well, I guess since we're on Zoom, let me preface this by saying, if you are wishing to make general public comment, there is a raise hand function on the bottom of your Zoom screen. You would just click to raise your hand and we will promote you. All right, seeing none, I will close general public comment. Agenda item 14.0 is new business. 14.1 is the high school varsity football coach. Diane?
Yes, in your packet, you will see a nomination for the high school football coach.
hang on, do you have a question, Mitchell, for Diane? I think your phone's
Not for
muted.
Diane.
No, okay. Hold on, let me do do I have a motion first?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and then Mitchell, go ahead.
So I have a few concerns with who's been selected and what's been going on, because I have a short time on the board and I know we've had a few people be appointed as coaches before. But this is the first time I've had parents reach out to me, people I've known reach out to me and say, we'd like to know what's going on. We'd like to see the process for a new high school coach. And full transparency, I freshman year went to Cheverus High School and had Michael Vance as a coach. There
Can I
were
interrupt for a second?
correct. Yeah.
Only because we are talking about personal information right now. I would prefer to have that discussion offline.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, just as a
Yeah.
point of clarification, we cannot speak about specific individuals, personnel or potential personnel in public. As a matter of practice.
Alrighty.
What is, I mean, I
I
can,
am just I
I
am
can motion. I just need to figure out the proper language for it.
what are you looking for,
Motion
Jenna?
to table?
Is that the proper one? You know me and my Robert's rules, guys.
I think we would have to table it so that we could post in the agenda an executive session, which would be the appropriate forum to have a discussion about personnel issues because they are confidential. And I'm happy to make the motion to table this until the 27th so that we can post an executive session so that we can have a discussion regarding personnel issues. If I'll make that motion and see what people think.
Second.
Right, just trying to think. I think there is your motion to table, so no discussion. All right, so Ray, if you could call the vote.
now, would this be a vote to table it?
Yes, that's what we're voting on right now.
Okay, now I'm ready. Got my microphone back on. Okay. Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpini Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Rockensteiner,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Ledger,
Yes.
Ms. Raskina,
Yes.
Yes, for Jenna too.
oh, sorry, Ms. Leon.
That's okay.
Okay, so we'll table the high school varsity football coach for the meeting of the 27th.
As a point of clarification, I imagine it'll be on the agenda for both an executive session and also back on the agenda for a vote on the nomination.
Yeah, so we'll yes.
Clear for everybody what that means.
Yeah.
Wait, does that mean that we would do executive session and come back, have a vote? Just
Yeah.
for clarification.
Yes.
Okay. Same night.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item 14.2 is a middle school theater producer, music director, and costume designer. So Diane.
Yeah, so those nominations again are in your packet as written. And we would ask you to approve those.
Yes, there's 3 separate individuals. Do I have a motion to approve the sorry, I lost my agenda. The middle school theater producer, music director, and costume designer as presented?
So moved.
I'll move. Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, can we call the vote?
Yes. Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leon,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpini Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yep.
Mr. Rockenstein,
Yep.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Ledger,
Yes.
Ms. Ruskina.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 14.3 is the high school donation acceptance.
Yes, in your packet, there is a letter for a donation. I will read it to you. Town of Scarborough School Board. Scarborough High School is in receipt of check 1034 in the amount of $1,000 from the Wade Millett Memorial Foundation, established in 2022 to honor a beloved friend and colleague who tragically died by suicide. The Wade Millett Memorial Foundation aims to raise awareness for mental health and suicide prevention. The donation is the result of a proposal sent by Sources of Strength to the Wade Millett Board. Sources of Strength is an anti-bullying and suicide prevention program at Scarborough High School. We are seeking approval to deposit the check into our Sources of Strength Activities Fund for future use. A copy of the check is attached. Please contact either of us if you need additional information. Thank you for your consideration. And it is signed sincerely, Elise Lahotsky, who is a social worker, and Jacqueline Danable, who is another social worker at the high school, and they are both the Sources of Strength advisors.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diane. Do I have a motion to approve the high school donation as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to say that I really appreciate this donation and the work the social workers went to put that application out. I think this type of work is so critically important. I think we hear frequently about concerns in the community of bullying. And I know that self-harm has been a real big issue that's kind of swept across our state a few notable times in the past 2 years. So I think that having a proactive stance where we're looking for funds to really make sure that we're able to get people who may be at risk is really, I just want to say thank you to those two social workers and to the foundation for supporting this really important work.
Thank you, Kara. All right, can we call the vote, please, Ray?
Yes. Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leon,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Rockenstein,
Yes.
Ms. Tarpinian,
Yes.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Ledger,
Yes.
Ms. Ruskina.
Yes.
All right, that is unanimous. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for that donation. All right, agenda item 15.0 is adjournment. With no objections, we will adjourn at 8:06 p.m. All right, everybody stay safe and have a good evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.